The goal of this show is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. And we also post advertising news you need to know in 60 seconds or less every weekday on our LinkedIn. I assure you, it's unlike any other news source you've ever seen in your entire life. It's entertaining, it's quick, it's got some sound effects. Go check us out on LinkedIn at Breaking Entering Media and follow us there to stay in the know. Today, you are going to learn from Dustin Tomes. Dustin is the CCO at TBWA Chiat, New York, and he joins us in person at the Breaking and Entering headquarters, which is phenomenal. I want to pause for a moment and just say thank you all for listening, supporting, and engaging, especially on LinkedIn. Following us there really helps. To have someone like Dustin, the CCO of an incredible agency, sitting in our office, it feels surreal, and we're incredibly grateful. So in this episode, Dustin talks about his current role as CCO, a position he stepped into about 6 months ago as we started recording this. So you'll hear how he landed that job, his vision for TBWA Chiat, New York, and what he plans to achieve in this new era. We also dive into his amazing career journey. There's a lot of luck, he humbly puts it, but more importantly, how do you capitalize on luck? How do you work extra hard and find the best creative shops to grow in? Because Dustin broke in at Crispin Porter and Boguski, working under Alex Boguski, which is just a Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it. And he worked alongside people like Dave Schiff, Susan Cradle, Britt Nolan, at Leo Burnett, and later he went to Droga and worked under David Droga himself. And these are just a few of the titans in the industry he's been around. Rob Schwartz is also included. These are all huge names. But Dustin didn't just sit around. He recognized greatness, leaned in, and worked relentlessly. He shares some amazing advice on how you can find those spots too and what to do if you're in that spot. He clearly loves helping the next generation, which makes him a perfect guest for this show, and you should connect with him. So listen through to the whole episode, come back to it a couple times. He'll tell you how to get in touch with him. And if you like what you hear, give us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Now on with the show. You're going to love this one. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right, Dustin Tomes, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. Thanks so much for stopping by the office. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, and thank you for having me here. Also, thank you for starting this and doing this. I know I know it started as helping peers break into the industry, but I think you've amassed a collection of interviews that I think helps everyone at every level across the industry.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and you're very good at it.
Thank you.
I guess if anyone's listening to this podcast for the first time, there's probably better episodes to start with. But I encourage you to listen to all 400 because it's good stuff.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun. And I think it's a testament to this industry. Like, people are willing to talk and give back. They might like to talk about themselves, but for the most part, it's about helping the next generation. And now we're just helping people and agencies stand out. So it's been a fun little mission of ours. But
nice. I would say talking about myself is probably the worst part of this whole ordeal. So,
well, that's gonna be the whole thing.
Nice. We'll be fine.
Fun. Well, Dustin, you have a big role here in the ad industry as CCO at TBWA Chiat, New York, which has been popping off. I've been loving the work that I've seen. So really, for this show, I want to learn about you. Mm-hmm. I want to learn about TBWA Chiat, New York today, what's going on there, and then how you broke into this industry and all your best advice. How does that sound for a run of show?
Sounds great.
So tell us about you outside of work. Where you live, what do you do, what's your life like? Is it all work, which is fine too?
There was a time in my career where it was all work for sure. Now I live in Brooklyn, kind of right by Grand Army Plaza, with my wife and 2 kids. Nice. We were going to come to New York, do it for a couple years, say we did it, find something else, and then we kind of fell in love with the city. And it's been 11 years now. And then I guess outside, I love being a dad. It is probably, my most important job. Finding that balance between work and being a dad is definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
But it's something that I pride myself on. And something I try to bring to work. Being a dad or a parent may not be your outside of work life, but I try and make space for whatever that other thing is. Because I think you're a better employee if you have, if you're all in at work and you're all in life and whatever else you have going on. I think that's important. So it's a value that I hold and one that I try to help others, kind of find those boundaries.
Yeah. Did you find like a massive shift like when you had your first child and like the way you approach work? Like what? Like did you find it like you're more efficient?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah, because you want to get home.
Yeah,
And you find ways to be more efficient. I think it also like you just look at the world differently, like in a really great way. I think you're more observative. I think you're more. I guess you take different points of view because you're looking through maybe life through the eyes of a child, which I think is a lot of what we do is we're trying to like see things and see products and services and problems through the eyes of different audiences and things and understand them. So I think there's a lot of value in it.
Love it. Yeah. I can't say I know what you're talking about just at this moment, and it's not tracking that way anytime soon.
Yeah.
So wish me luck there.
You got time.
Yeah. Amazing. So you're living in New York. You're CCO now. Let's talk about the agency and what your role specifically is. So Chief Creative Officer.
Yeah.
What does it mean in your agency?
Yeah. I'm the Chief Creative Officer of the New York office. Chiat Day has 2 offices, New York and LA. We're also part of the TBWA network, which is, the biggest small network, I think globally. I think as they built the network, they made an effort to find like-minded agencies. Chiat Day was, we had the pirate mentality, like that was kind of our ethos and the way that we operated. TBWA is the disruption company. Those things pair together really well. They're just kind of wrapped in different things, but it's a similar mindset. And I think that's a lot of what the network is. So you're part of that network, which I think is really, really a special thing. But yeah, New York and LA have their own set of clients. So in New York, we look after the clients that we have here. We also collaborate and we have shared resources. The great thing about being a part of the TBWA network is all the tools that we get access to, whether that's data, insights, cultural trends and things. And we share a lot of that data because it helps all of our clients, and we all translate it differently based on who our clients are. But yeah, that's pretty much the role in New York.
Yeah. I've never been to the LA office, but that's something that we learn about, like in the history of advertising. What is it? Be more like dogs or something like that is on that.
Yeah, on the outside. The office is iconic. Yeah. It's got a basketball court inside, and it's a great office.
Yeah, Jack tries to play basketball every once in a while. He's not,
It's like riding a bike. You don't lose that. I got that skill. I'll never lose it. So if you need anyone to come play, let me know.
I guess like starting there, then understanding like how do you balance that out? Like, is there different brands, internal cultures, and like as your job as a CCO, how do you kind of balance out like these two like titans of agencies in the same network? Like, can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always been a healthy tension between the 2 offices. Obviously it started in LA, but New York's had its moments as well. We've talked a lot about eras as we've kind of come in and just kind of admiring, when you walk into a place like that with the DNA that it has, there's a lot to be learned, right? Like you look at the different eras for when they made the work that inspired you, or some of the work defined advertising. When you look at the 1984 Super Bowl spot, that changed the way we did Super Bowl spots. The Skittles work out of New York, advertising was essentially born out of that. I think there was some stuff on Gatorade that kind of, helped pioneer branded content. So when you have all of those things, like being able to understand them, study them, learn from them, one of the things we've been, championing since I got here in the New York office is creativity is everyone's business. Which is a multifaceted thought. It doesn't mean that everyone is responsible for coming up with ideas, although we did do an all agency brief that was pretty fun. We had people from 14 different disciplines submit ideas. But bringing creativity to your discipline is like so important, whether you're in new business, whether you're in finance. You need to think creatively and solve problems just the way creatives do. And so getting everyone into that spirit of creativity, because the DNA of Chiat is a creative-led agency, and we want to, really emphasize that and kind of build everything around that again. The other thing that we've been, evolving, I think, is taking creativity beyond what are traditional ads or even pieces of content. We were just in a meeting recently for one of our clients where they're using creativity to change the operation model for the client. So moving it upstream even into the, how they do their business. So I think creativity is such a powerful tool. And just really trying to get that kind of in the DNA, make it a practice. Sometimes, we've done a great job of branding ourselves as the disruption company and as Pirates. And it's important that you're not just, branding it and writing books about it, but you're practicing it, that it's an ethos, that it's something that you believe in and you're applying like day to day. And that's sometimes where the disconnect can happen, where it's like, you're the disruption company. Is the work disruptive? You got to find, what's happening in between there to make sure that you are delivering on the thing that you're setting out to do.
And that's advice just for branding for everybody, whether it's your personal brand, for like companies out there, for products. Like, you can say all you want about who you are and what you do, but there has to be the alignment on actions and consistency over time. Yeah. It's not just the logo. It's not just what you say on the packaging. So that's always a great reminder in the fundamentals of branding, for sure.
I completely agree with that.
You got there 6 months ago-ish?
Ish.
As the CCO at the New York office. What was it like when you got there? What did they hire you? Why'd they go, Dustin, we need you to run the ship in this location? What did they see in you?
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to Emily Wilcox, the CEO. She got there before I did. And she was the one that had done the search. It's one of those things where it wasn't necessarily, I guess, what I was looking for. I've kind of always just focused on the work, doing the work, making that great, making our clients successful, and everything has kind of come. That's kind of been my approach. Yeah. Versus kind of yearning for the thing.
Hey, that's a great approach. Focus on the work. Don't chase the money. Focus on the work.
The rest will follow. Follow the work. The rest will follow.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where it surprised me a little bit, I think, if I'm being honest. And I went into it fully prepared to let them know the type of leader that I am, which is, kind of heart first, human first, really like not the type that wants the spotlight always. But fine, I'd rather my work was famous than I was famous or someone else kind of had that. Went in just kind of like, I think it's easier to be hard on work, hard on people, easy on work, easy on people. How do you be hard on work and easy on people? Like, how are you a good leader in that way, a servant leader? And those aren't necessarily the things I observed throughout my career necessarily. So, when I met with Emily, I was very transparent about all of those things. And I think it was the type of leader that she was looking for. She is all about creativity and all about talent. And I'm all about creativity and all about talent. And that's the way it was packaged. And I think our demeanors are different, and we balance each other out really nicely in that way. So that was a big part of it. And then I think, I mentioned the era thing, like coming to an agency like this and being able to leave, your mark on history is a really exciting thought and a really great thing. And the agency had been doing good work before I came in. I'm there because there was a vacancy. The CCO previously moved on to something else. And so I stepped into that role. And we're starting from a great place. We have great history. So it's just about getting a little bit better each day, and really kind of focusing on the work.
Yeah. What era do you want, like when you're done here, what era do you want to leave behind? What are they going to say?
Yeah. I want it to mean something. I want people to feel like they had a great talent experience there, that they grew there, that they, the goal is always to make the best work of your career. Like, even if you've probably made the best work of your career, you still want to make the best work of your career. I think that's the thing that drives us forward. And I hope that people achieve that at Chiat. But if you fall short of that, or you're coming in with something great, that you learned something, that you grew as a creative or any other discipline that you had, that you were there, that you had a great talent experience. I think it's that. I think it really is kind of the experience that you have and the growth that you experience, and then the work that we do. And I would love, when you say you worked at Droga or Crispin or anywhere, they often ask, well, when were you there? And that usually defines like how they think about you.
Absolutely.
From that era and that time there, and I want that to mean something. And we've kind of we've challenged, those that are in the New York office to take ownership of that, because as leaders, we need to create space for creativity to thrive, for great work to kind of be there, build the relationships with clients so they're receptive to it. And then it's on them to bring the work, to really put the effort in, to bring the great ideas, to challenge themselves every day, to bring creativity into their discipline. So it's, they have to take ownership of that, and they have, and they've started to, and we've really seen some forward momentum when it comes to that. So yeah.
I mean, you talk about eras. I'm looking at your LinkedIn here and your past agency experiences. We'll get into that. So everybody, we're looking at Crispin 2008 start, Droga 2015 start. These are some nice times to work in an agency.
I've been very fortunate. We don't talk a lot about luck and timing in this industry, but it's certainly a factor. It's not the only factor, but it certainly is something that happens. So.
But there's ways to better your luck and look in the right directions and read the signals out there of which agencies are stepping up. A little bit, it's kind of time in the market too. It's there's hot shops right now. A-list just came out. Everybody's gonna be going gold rush. It might be a little too late. For entry level or mid level talent. Now it's already so popular. It's hard to get into.
We have to do something with it. If you get the right timing, the right luck, the right project in the right agency at the right time, you have to do something with it, right? You can't be a passenger in that situation. You have to be a part of the thing that's going. And walking into a place like that maybe is already moving, there's almost more pressure, I think, to be able to keep up, and it's definitely a different dynamic.
Oh yeah, but before we get into how you broke in today, TBWA Chiat Day New York clients work. What are you so excited about? What has been released recently? Can you tell us what's going to be launching beforehand? We can break the news right now. Give us all of that. I've been trying to get a scoop for years.
Yeah, I bet you have. You probably won't get one today because I don't know that that there's a whole lot I can say necessarily. It's all about that kind of shift into doing creative work, really kind of reorienting back around the creativity and using it to solve business problems. I think the history of Chiat Day, it's the big lasting stuff that is meaningful, that has great insights, that really can even alter and change the trajectory of a brand. When you think different. We have For the Stay most recently for Hilton, where they came out of the pandemic incredibly strong, and they had that kind of will and that ambition to come out of that, which hit hotels incredibly hard. The way that they came out of that and the way they committed to that platform where they were orienting everything around the stay, where, in the travel category, they had been selling the destination. A lot of, hotels in that category were all about, even if you're stepping out on a deck, of a hotel, it's all about the thing that's out there and drawing people to the locations through that. No one was really talking about the stay and how important having a good stay is somewhere.
In the physical room,
in the building, hospitality, the services, the technology that goes into that experience. I wouldn't say that you're always traveling just for a hotel, right? It's not that we're that naive that you're not going there for those places, but I think they do it so well, and it's the foundation of who they are. Hospitality is something that they were built on. And the fact that they were able to unlock that because it's in their DNA, but it was white space in the industry at the time. Others have followed since, so we're continuing to have to evolve that. But yeah, I think we're building right now, and I think we're coming in and trying to reorient around the creative. We have a lot of briefs coming in, so I think in a couple months you'll start to see a lot of work coming from us, and I'm excited about it. Some really great opportunities coming in, and we have some great clients. So that's always a good recipe for doing great work.
Can we talk about the roster of clients that are public knowledge?
Yeah.
Who we got?
I just mentioned Hilton.
Yep.
Hilton is a good one. LG's been a great story. LG is one that you have the Apples of the world, the Samsungs of the world, kind of in that space. And LG has kind of come in and really made their brand mean something over a period of about 3 years with our relationship with them. Life is good, optimism is brave. The Optimism Your Feed stuff that they had done last year, predates my time. but I thought it was a really great piece of work, and an example of finding wins in the fringes, I guess. I think, the bigger a campaign is, or the more media that's behind it, a lot of times the more pressure goes into that, the more people are involved. Lee Clow used to call it the nincompoop forest that you had, which was like the journey that an idea had to make its way through to get out into the world. I think the more players there are on something, the more at risk an idea is. So I think if you can find those ideas that are, in social or an activation or something in the fringes, a 10-minute TikTok was a little bit off to the side that they had done for Hilton.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I think that type of stuff, a lot of times, you can really surprise people and surprise yourself sometimes. So, one of the things that I learned at Crispin was that everything can be an opportunity. Not everything has to be great, but everything can be great. Mm-hmm. So really taking that mentality to everything that you do. And if you're a junior, if you're someone that's coming into the industry, you may not be getting those big juicy briefs plopped on your desk, but every brief matters. Like at that level, whatever you do with it, like doing something with that, you can always make an influence. You can surprise stuff. We had at Crispin all the time, you'd have interns that were, I think there was a banner ad for Burger King that like won a Cannes Lion that was, the idea came from an intern. So it really is just taking something that, was the opportunity that they had in front of them and making something great out of it.
Do you remember that banner ad? Did it like shatter?
I think it was something with,
it's
so interesting because, Crispin essentially pioneered like digital advertising and kind of interactivity space. So there were things that were being done at that time that I think if you look at them now, it's probably not that surprising. I mean, you look at something like 12th Force, which I think won a Cannes Grand Prix, Titanium, something in that realm, and it was really customer service for Best Buy on Twitter, but no one was using Twitter that way. Not to be reductive of what the idea was, but the way technology moves. And so I think the banner ad was something with holding $1 up to like your webcam, and then I think it giving you a coupon for essentially for $1 Whopper.
Hey, that's pretty cool right now.
Once again, just like using using technology in different ways.
You don't see that. I mean,
which we're moving into that space now with AI, the kind of, great unknown and everything that's going to come of that. So we're all kind of working through that and using it in different ways and trying to figure out what it's capable of.
All right, Dustin, how'd you break into this? At what point did you say to a young Dustin, I want to make ads for a living?
I was a late entrant, I would say. I grew up on a farm outside a town of 813 people in Utica, Nebraska. So
okay,
I had flashes of creativity growing up. I didn't know how to commercialize, artistic talents. Didn't really know. So I went to the State University in Nebraska there. University of Nebraska.
All right, we gotta pause there.
Yeah,
are you still a Husker fan?
Oh, of course I am.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Jack's last name is Westerkamp. Does that ring a bell to you?
Sure does. Jordan Westerkamp.
That's his cousin.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's my
wow.
cousin. Yeah, pretty cool.
Catch.
Huh? Pretty cool.
The catch.
Yeah, the magician.
Still known for that.
I can't believe you're here for this. I've done this a couple times.
It's the best. Nebraska has the best tailgate scene, college football atmosphere I've ever seen in my life.
Larry the
That's
Cable
awesome.
Guy.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, Larry the Cable
When he
Guy.
throws out the hot dogs.
When it's the only thing,
yeah,
you really, yeah. And they were great in the 90s when I was growing up, so it's hardwired into you. So
is that Tom Osborne?
Tom Osborne era, yeah. And then it was Frank Solich, I think, when I was in college. I got one good year in college, and then it got tough.
Yeah,
and it's been tough ever since.
Yeah.
We're working on it. There's a lot of parallel between sports and I feel like what we do.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's
advertising.
Yeah,
winning fixes everything.
Yeah, winning fixes everything. How important talent is. How important
coaching staff,
skill sets. Chemistry between. There's a lot to be learned from it, and I think I'm always looking that direction sometimes.
I was talking with Rob Schwartz about our idea for we want to do this concept of like coaching trees and like plotting and just doing diagram and like a little infographic, maybe a little short form of like who influenced who, like who Lee Clow, who trained like Lee Clow, and then below who is below Lee Clow, where are they at today? Yeah. And then we can also hover in on those eras of agencies too.
That's great. Yeah.
Like let's focus in on Crispin and 2000s or whenever it was like their best
Yeah.
And
That's a great idea. I mean, you hear about the Belichick coaching tree, and even when I started this job, like Pirates were coming out of the woodwork, wanting Chiat to be great. Everyone's rooting for
alumni,
Chiat, to be great because they're all proudly Pirates, and some I knew and some I didn't. It's a great thing.
So you're in Nebraska.
Yep.
What are you studying?
So I was bouncing around different majors in college, and then junior year I went to an ad club meeting. And that's when it clicked. Like, here's how I can use my creativity in this way. Now, Nebraska has a great, journalism and mass communications college, but as a creative, it's not specialized in that way and teaching you those skill sets. So
it's hard for the undergrads.
It is. Yeah. And so it was a lot of like self-teaching, and my Fridays and Saturday nights became Photoshop and giving myself projects and doing
Can you look in the camera and say that again? Because it's a good lesson.
Yeah.
Like, tell people you gotta kind of like what you just said. Like, that's important.
Yeah. So I found advertising late. I wasn't in an institution that was going to teach me the skill set. So my Fridays and Saturday nights in college became Photoshop and doing logos for friends and flyers around campus. I started in graphic design, and then eventually went into art direction. I did get to work at the sports information department there at the university, doing posters and media guide covers for them. And because I found it late, I knew I was behind, right? And I was like, how am I going to close this gap? Because I'm seeing books that other people have, and I'm like, I'm just not there. And so I took my work around town. Greg Anderson, I think you spoke with recently.
Bailey Lauerman.
At Bailey Lauerman, Swanson Russell, Art Rival. Those are kind of three agencies that were in town, and I took my book around to the, I think, was it Greg Wiley and Carter Weiss? Weiss, I think, is CCO still potentially at Bailey Lauerman. And I got destroyed, if I'm being honest. Like, I got honest feedback, right?
Yeah.
I it wasn't good enough. I think Carter was pulling comm arts and archives out of his collection, saying this is what's happening right now. This is what people are doing. And I saw the gap between my work and what was out there. And then I had a moment where I was like, well, now no one's going to hire me. Everyone in town knows how bad I am. But it really motivated me in that way. And it was kind of a wake up call that, like, if I'm going to make this work, I gotta go. And then I did get an internship at a small agency called Thought District. Now they're known as Agent in Lincoln, Nebraska. And that's where I really just started to like hone my skills and learn. And then my break, I guess, into, the big leagues, I guess, as we'll call them, was at Crispin in Boulder. And I just had someone that I had worked with in Lincoln that vouched for me. They were opening the Boulder office, kind of hiring like crazy, needed people.
Mm-hmm.
And just was like, his book's not there, but he's a farm kid and he's going to work circles around everyone. And so it was kind of like, it was kind of that. Like, I just had to outwork everyone and learn. And I started in the studio there, but Alex Boguski had started in the studio. So that was kind of a badge of honor a little bit to start in the studio, learn the skills, like learn the craft. And then I was just grabbing briefs here and there. I don't know if you've heard the Ira Glass talk about the creative gap before. There's like
about taste.
There's like a 2 or 3 minute thing, and I really experienced that. So I would get briefs in the studio. I would work on stuff. I'd submit ideas. Alex Bernard and Dave Schiff were kind of my
Schiff.
Yeah.
Love Schiff.
Yeah.
Schiff just did a guest blog.
They were my guys. I learned under them.
Schiff cracks me up, man.
Yeah, he's still in Boulder, right?
Yeah, he's doing. Yeah. He just started standard practice.
That's awesome.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, good people. So they would slide me briefs and I would submit stuff, still in the studio, and I would see. I knew what good work was. Like, I knew,
you had the taste,
but I couldn't do it. Like, I just wasn't there. And so I would always compare. I would look at the stuff that went to the media. I would look at what I submitted, and I would see it's just not there.
Right.
I would start to learn from that stuff, and I think Iris talks about that gap, and you just have to do a volume of work to close that gap. You have to get reps. You have to do it. You have to try it. You have to like give yourself projects or get any brief that you can to close that gap. And it can be frustrating. And I think that's when people maybe quit or move to a different discipline or feel like they can't do it. But it's one of those things that, just like, so I really worked on that. And I like to say that Crispin was kind of my boot camp for advertising. It's how I got hardwired to be the creative that I am. I don't think that, the amount that I worked and kind of maybe what that culture was would stand up today necessarily. Like, I was married to it for sure. But I owe a lot to it, I owe a lot to my time there. And, I got 2 years with Alex and then 2 years with Rob and Andrew. Rob Riley is I know someone that you've spoken with as well, and someone that I talked to before I came into the CCO role, and someone that's just done a great job kind of everywhere that he's gone and what he's done. So he's definitely
Andrew Keller.
Andrew Keller.
Where's he at now? He's at
so I think he went to Facebook for quite a while, and then now I believe he's back with Rob at the internal Coke agency.
Oh yeah,
I have to fact check that one.
Yeah,
Andrew
Keller.
He's right.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where he is. But yeah, it was great. I mean, I learned a lot from a lot of people there for sure, and really that's how I got hardwired as a creative. To be detail oriented, to be craft oriented, to be idea first.
Yes.
Really, because that's was the beauty of that place, was it's the idea first, and then how does it take shape? Because it was they're doing stuff outside of traditional media quite a lot, and really kind of pioneered that space.
Always idea first.
Always.
And
even now,
always.
especially now, there's more places for an idea to live now than there ever has been.
Which is great, but you don't start with the tactics where it's the placement and all that.
It's not usually a good practice. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that you can't have a great idea for AI specifically. It's not to say that it doesn't lend itself really well to one discipline, but it can be a trap, I think, if it's just the technology or just that.
Yeah. For the younger audience, like, let's get them in that practice of like, let's start with the idea and then see how it can evolve and like place in different locations and stuff like that. I think that's
Yeah.
like a good fundamental skill.
It is.
Where you don't start with AI and you don't.
Well,
Think
coming
about-
up with an idea, you don't need a budget for that, right?
No.
Like, start with that, come up with the idea, and then if you do or don't have a budget, then you got to figure out, well,
Then you get
what's my
scrappy.
skill set, or what's my skill set of someone I know? Like, if I'm an art director, as a copywriter I know, or a designer, or the idea I have requires illustration, am I trading skills to, try and go and make this thing a reality? Or, I'm a photographer on the side, so it's headline and photo based, like if it's a traditional print ad, or if I know how to use social media really well, does it take shape in a TikTok trend? So yeah, starting with that idea and then figuring out, and we have to do that now. Like the budgets vary so much, the timing varies so much. Sometimes we have a sense for the media channels that's going in. It's usually better practice to let the channels that it's going to live in help make the idea better and
Sure.
greater and travel farther and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
That scrappiness is so important when you're just starting off, like figuring it out.
is.
You have you should be obsessed with the idea, like really excited about it, and then you'll figure out how to make it work.
Yes.
You'll call people up, you'll trade services, you'll figure it out and learn on your own.
Yeah.
And I think that's so great. What was like a hard skill, like something tangible that you learned at Crispin that you are so grateful for? Maybe you still use it today. Give us a lesson when you were there.
yeah, I would say resilience is probably the thing. Like, I think especially because that is where I really came into being a creative and really had to start so far behind that it would have been easy to just be like, I can't do this, or I can't be as good as so and so, because you had people coming in there that were some of the best in the world, and it was intimidating in that way. Something that was coming from a really small market with who found advertising late. But that resilience, like, you never know when the 97th out of your 100 headlines is going to be the one. Or and I found this later in my career where an idea will die maybe late in the game, and it's crushing, right? And then what follows behind it is maybe a better idea or something, or you're kind of using that. Sometimes it's not always, but I think that kind of resilience and that really, like, moving, back when we would comp things like crazy, I feel like that's maybe going by the wayside with what AI is now. But, moving past those first few pages of images, getting into the 50th, 60th image to, like, find the right comp, because that's the thing that's going to sell the idea.
Yeah.
So making sure that you're really, like, building something that's going to wow someone. So it really is that kind of continuing to push, that kind of being self-propelled, which is something that I learned, in college when I had to teach everything myself. But that self-propulsion and, like, that resilience to just kind of keep moving to the next thing, and maybe you have a great idea in front of you, maybe there's something that's better, or pushing the work, even pushing it into production. Like, we forget sometimes that production is part of the creative process.
Yep.
And continue to push and better the work in that phase.
Love it. Was there like a memory that comes to mind when you were really tested on a specific brief or project?
Yeah, there was there was something that we were working on for quite a long time at Droga, that right before the pandemic had gone away, because of the nature of what the pandemic was, and it was the right thing to do because the nature of the campaign, it probably wouldn't have held up.
Sure.
And that was hard. You spent like a long time working on this, and then we spent 10 days coming up with the replacement for that, and it ended up being even better.
Oh, yeah, because you put all that thought into it. So
I guess, and it was
like
it was luck, timing. It was the whole
Yeah.
thing. It was one of those things. So I think that was something that tested the thing
Yeah.
I was just talking about and actually came true. So
got it. So then from Crispin, you spent a couple of years there. You go to Chicago. That's where we're from. So where'd you live in Chicago? You're working at Leo Burnett. You're an ACD now. So you got a little bit more of a leadership role. It's not just execution on these ideas. Like let's hover over the stint there and then kind of fast track to, I don't know. You tell me, what were other big tentpole moments in your career?
Yeah. I went to Leo Burnett. Yeah. First kind of opportunity to do that tricky transition between being a creative to being a creative leader. The ACD role is always
It's weird.
a strange one.
Yeah. It's like you're not fully. Like,
Yeah. It's probably one of the more frustrating, I
Yeah.
think, roles, where you're kind of like, depending on what project you're on, you're either a senior team or you're maybe you have, you're getting a chance to give feedback and lead people a little bit.
It is a tricky role. I never even thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's a tough one, for sure, but it's a good kind of like, because the creative trajectory is kind of weird, where the things that you do as a creative aren't always building on what you need to be a leader. I think it's a good go between, but yeah, it's a tough position to be in.
Yeah.
I'd spent some time there. I hadn't lived in a big city before, so I really enjoyed that. Met my wife there. So that was, obviously a highlight. But yeah, I mean, it was, I made some great relationships there. My longtime partner at Droga, I met there, John O'Paul. We met at Leo Burnett in Chicago. We didn't work together there. We're in this kind of the same group. And Britt Nolan, got to work with Britt some there and work with him again at Publicis. And Susan Cradle was leading at the time.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Man, when I talk about luck and timing, like, yeah, Alex, Robin Andrews, Susan Cradle, David Droga. I'm very fortunate in that way.
Those are like all our
learn from
dream
that.
guests, and you are as well. It's like, this is wild.
Yeah.
Like,
And
we got to talk about some connections here.
We can do that.
Some cell phone numbers
and
dish those out. We'll flash those on the screen now.
Yeah, I get myself in trouble with that. No, you take little bits from each of them, right?
Yeah.
And I think, and that's what was so exciting about taking on the CCO role now, is taking the things from them that I learned that I feel like, led to the work that I made and aligned with me as the type of leader I wanted to be, and, package all those together and give it my shot. So, so Leo Burnett for 2 years in Chicago, and then actually went to Chiat Day in New York first time, when Rob Schwartz, he wasn't there yet. Matt Ian was the ECD there. There wasn't a CCO at the time. And then Rob kind of came in halfway through as his first role as a CEO, transitioning from CCO to CEO.
What a beast.
And then from there I went to Droga, and that's where I really kind of, I think, Crispin kind of formed me as a creative, and I think Droga really maybe defined, I guess, my body of work that I currently have, and I really committed to applying everything that I've learned elsewhere. I think what you don't realize, and I think this is something for people coming in the industry, if you find yourself somewhere where creativity is at the center of everything and it is the thing that means the most, that is a rare thing. That is not everywhere. It was definitely there when I was there at Crispin. I went a couple places where it maybe wasn't at the time. I'm not saying that it hasn't been historically at those places.
But there's evolution.
At my time there, when we talk about eras,
Yep.
the era that I was there was not that necessarily. But then when I found it at Crispin again, and I mean extreme, like where it's like everything is about the work, you're pushing meetings, you're, creativity is like every decision that you make is for the best, the best interest of the work itself. And when I found that again at Droga, I was like, I'm digging in here. This is what I remember.
You knew what to do.
Yeah, and then I just, that's where I had more
on?
influence. Worked on everything. I early in my time at Droga, it's where I really kind of learned the power and really the satisfaction of doing great work for brands and industries that aren't historically known for doing great work.
That's the best.
So like Prudential, for example. was one that in the finance category, certainly there are things here and there, but that's not really what the category is known for. But it's a different challenge, and then I think it's something that just like is almost like even more rewarding when you can do that, because it is a more difficult thing to do. But they were great clients.
Did you work with
good work?
Did you work with Jerry Hoke?
So Ray was there still. So Jerry and Ray were partners. So Ray was running Prudential when John and I were working with him.
What's Ray's last name?
Ray Del Salvio.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was running Prudential at the time. And so yeah, we worked on that. We worked on Pizza Hut. We worked on Dixie. And then it was really, I would say, kind of toward the end of my time there with Game of Thrones and Facebook, where I feel like it kind of hit another level in what we were able to do and kind of do that stuff that was a little bit career defining. The HBO opportunity was, that'll probably never happen again, where you had Droga and Wyden and Kennedy. Like, Wyden was, for the Super Bowl ad, at least for that campaign, Wyden was doing the Bud Light, part of that, and we were doing the HBO, and we had, 2 production companies, we had, 2 sound mixers, because the whole intention was for the Bud Light thing to be as authentic as it needs to be, or as it can be. It needs to feel like the Dilly Dilly Bud Light Super Bowl ad, and HBO needs to have, David Nutter was the director. We had gotten the dragons from the studio, like some unused footage. So that all had to be authentic, so that when you had that kind of bait and switch where you think it's a Bud Light ad and then it becomes a Game of Thrones ad, you wanted it to be authentic. And so, we're working alongside Wyden and Kennedy and in the edit bay together and pushing and pulling. And
oh my goodness!
Yeah, their client and our client, and it was healthy, and there was tension, and
that's what we love.
It was a great experience
for the Bud Night. This is
the Bud Night.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
I didn't even think about the back end on that.
Yeah, because it was fully committing to the idea, right? Yeah. Like, it was fully committing that it's like, certainly we,
Who came up with the idea? Like, was it?
The idea was initially going to be, it was really just like, we want the Bud, or the Mountain, to take out a mascot in the Super Bowl. And I think initially it was, we were talking like, is it multiple, like whatever, or do we say it's one of these 6? We had written spots for a bunch of different brands. And then it was actually, David had a relationship with someone at Anheuser-Busch, and it was something that was sold in at the top and then filtered down. I don't know that you can walk into a meeting, at a lower level and expect something like that to work its way up the chain, because you're essentially killing off an intellectual property of a brand.
Unbelievable.
But they were fantastic as partners and understood the cultural relevance of HBO in the last season of Game of Thrones. Our HBO clients were some of the best that I've worked with in the industry. They were just really great, and everything just clicked. And we pitched them that Super Bowl spot, and Bleed for the Throne, which was a South by Southwest experience, and Quest for the Throne, where we hid 6 thrones around the world, and didn't tell people where they were, and they had to find them. We just did like a 24-hour video. One was in, under the Northern Lights in Sweden, and they had a helicopter one in Canada somewhere, like these really remote places. And it's all ideas that we just kind of pitched, and they just kept wanting to make stuff, and it was just this euphoric kind of moment in your career where everything's just kind of moving and clicking, and it was great. So really unique experience, and one I'll hold on to forever, for sure.
I love it. So recognizing when you're at a shop, or maybe even the shops that are putting creativity at the center.
Yes.
Get there, recognize when you're there, and go all in on that.
And it can either be historically that is what they are, what they've always been.
Yeah.
Or it could be, the leader that's there, or the people that are there, and you know that era and that time is going to be about creativity. If you're a creative, that's where you want to go. But as important, like, one of the things that I learned at a Crispin and a Droga, everyone from front desk to finance cares about the work. Like, everyone's rowing in the same direction.
It's awesome.
You don't have to. You have to convince a creative to care about the creative. How do you convince everyone else that that's the important thing? And when you find people in account and strategy and finance and new business and everything that like are obsessed with work and wanting to make great work, that's where it starts to get easy, because you can't just put a good idea in front of a client anymore and expect it to sell. Like, there's so much more that goes into
Everybody
that.
has to be committed, and it starts with the culture and leadership, I would argue. like the CCO's got to buy into it and like sell it to everybody. All the the CEO, the CFO has to know about it too, on the C-suite there.
You need a strategic foundation. You need great comm strategy. You need
all of it.
It needs to be fed with data. It needs it's everything. So I think that's when you see that in an agency. That's usually when it clicks from a creative perspective.
It's hard to do. It's
It's probably the hardest thing to do, to be honest. Like create that environment for creativity to thrive. That's where you do large work at volume consistently. It's not to say if you don't have that, you can't do it. You can. I've seen pockets at places that either like it's a great client relationship or it's a group of people that are just like, we're over here and we're going to do this thing and we're committed to it. It can work that way too.
I love it. Well, Dustin, this has been great. We'll keep on following along. I know we can talk for hours, but where can people connect with you if they want to follow along your journey? Is it LinkedIn the best way to go?
That's probably the best way to go. I try and be as responsive as I can.
You're a busy guy now. Like
I am, but
you're running the ship in New York.
Yeah,
here.
but I try to never lose sight of where I came from, that farm in Nebraska, and I also try never to lose sight that I at one time was a potential hire. Like I wasn't like it wasn't there, the body of work. I didn't have the evidence, but I was given a chance, and I always want to try and make sure that I'm doing that for someone else when I can.
Crushed it. Dustin, thank you so much for coming on. You're going to keep on crushing it. We're excited to follow along.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.